Man, guess who's back? I said, guess who's back? What's going on, boxing fans? So, in the aftermath of the fight, Chris Eubank Jr. losing to Liam Smith, I'm going to make this a really quick video, and we're going to quickly assess a couple of reasons why Eubank Jr. may have lost. So, this is the scenario. He fought quite a long time and had most of his success at super middleweight, 168 pounds. He suddenly had to boil himself down to below 160 pounds for a catchweight fight with Conor Benn that didn't happen. This affected his body in the same way that Kell Brook went up and down in weight. Kell Brook did a similar thing, and you saw kind of what happened to him. He suddenly went up in weight to fight a big money fight with Golovkin at 160 pounds, when really he's a welterweight. And then he came all the way back down from being over 160 pounds in the ring with Golovkin to try and make 147 with the best welterweight in the world, Errol Spence. And we saw what happened. You can't play with your weight and rehydration like that. Your body takes a while to acclimatize. So let's just think about Eubank, what he's done. Fighting for a long time at 168 pounds, where he looked much more durable, heavier. You know, he looked much more solid. He didn't look so fragile like he did in this fight. 168 pounds, came down quickly, a little bit greedy really, trying to get that big fight, that big money fight at catch weight, which is below even middleweight, to fight a welterweight in Conor Benn. The fight didn't happen because of the drug cheating and all that stuff. Then he suddenly took this fight with Smith, who is naturally a big guy for his weight, so it was easy for Smith to fight at 160. Easy. Put on a bit of weight, even be a little bit stronger. But for Eubank, it was kind of difficult because he'd already come down. Now he's boiled himself down and he's fighting at 160, which he hasn't been at for a while, and he basically got it wrong. He wanted to make sure he made weight, so he cut too much, that's obvious. And then he didn't rehydrate enough on the night. And that's why he looked so good when he was moving, but as soon as he took his first shot, he looked so fragile. Makes sense. Reason number 2. The legendary curse of Mr. Bad Luck himself, David Haye. Every single prediction David Haye has made, it goes the opposite way. He made the wrong prediction about Tyson Fury and Deontay Wilder 3 times. He got that wrong. He made the wrong prediction about Anthony Joshua, Usyk, and a whole bunch of wrong predictions. I can't even name how many predictions he made that he got wrong. Canelo and Bivol. Many different... everything he says has been wrong when it comes to predictions. Could it be this? Could this be the reason why Eubank lost? Or could it be something a lot more reasonable and rational, like his trainer? The obvious elephant in the room, Roy Jones Jr. Now, what's the problem with Roy Jones Jr.? First of all, he was obviously a great fighter early on in his career, but he wasn't perfect. As the competition increased, as he went higher up the ranks, he started to fight fighters who had, better records, unbeaten champions and things like that. These fighters were kind of matching him for athleticism, and his athleticism couldn't get him out of trouble anymore. And that open guard that Roy Jones Jr. is so famous for, he started to get caught out. Some people could say his athleticism started to decline, but it was kind of a combination of his athleticism declining, definitely that, and also getting caught because he has that open guard. And that's obviously what happens to fighters when they have an open guard and the athleticism starts to decline. We saw it with David Haye. We've seen it with many people. And that's exactly what seemed to happen with Roy Jones. Now, Roy Jones had some losses after this happened. Many losses with fighters that people would have sworn that he would beat. Now, Roy Jones now, as an unproven trainer, is training Chris Eubank Jr. in exactly the same style. That open guard and relying on that back foot and relying on that athleticism. It's the same mistake that Roy Jones did in his career, and he's teaching it to Eubank Jr. That's what I'm seeing. Now, Eubank Jr. is not as athletic as Roy Jones was. Probably the reason why he's getting caught out more often and quicker than Roy Jones. If you actually watch the sequence where he got hit by Smith, he's wide open. Smith comes in. Smith was just stalking behind a high guard, waiting for his opportunity. And as soon as he came in, Chris Eubank Jr., it was too late for him to put his hands up, which he doesn't do anyway. He tried to duck. He got hit with a few shots. That's why he got caught. And then the follow-up shots, he couldn't do nothing about. And this is what happens to people with open guard. It was almost a carbon copy of how Roy Jones Jr. got knocked out by Tava. If you go back and watch that fight, same thing. Hands down, leaning back. The only difference was Eubank Jr. kind of tried to duck, but it was the same thing. Didn't have his hands up. So, what do you think? I think Roy Jones is all wrong for Chris Eubank. I think he needs a trainer that's going to teach him how to get his hands up, tight guard, and I think he needs to be on the front foot going forward, trying to draw the counter, and that allows him to be aggressive. Because Chris Eubank Jr. is not the same kind of fighter as Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr., he could get out of the way of an attack. He likes to lead you into an attack, lead you into a false sense of security, and then counter you. But Chris Eubank Jr. is not really that type of fighter. I think he has slower reactions. He kind of almost stops to kind of admire his own work too many times. He does that a lot, and he's kind of got this kind of a stiff movement, which is just a sitting duck for someone who is throwing bombs at you, like Smith was throwing bombs at him. In my view, he's just not as fluid as Roy Jones. So that style just doesn't work. Let me know what you think. Do you think that could be a reason why he lost to Smith? That reason and the game plan, maybe the game plan was wrong and the trainer is wrong. What do you think of that? The fourth reason and the last reason, and perhaps the most complicated reason, so you're going to have to really listen to actually understand what I'm talking about here. So get your listening ears ready. This is the fourth reason, the most complicated reason. Could Chris Eubank Jr. just be a hype job? Maybe that's all it is. Maybe he's just a hype job. Maybe he was always no good. Just an average guy with an over-average ambition, massively inflated ego. Just like somebody else that you might know. His dad, Chris Eubank Sr., the same character. He had a massively inflated ego, and it was, much more than his actual ability. His dad was the same. People always talk about how his dad was a legend and stuff like that. Was his dad really a legend? Chris Eubank Sr., yes, great fighter, had a lot of power, a unique, behavior, you could say. They call him eccentric. But for what he really did in the ring, he went life and death with Nigel Benn. Fair enough. But when he really stepped up to the elite, he lost. He lost to Joe Calzaghe in a fight that wasn't even close. He lost to Carl Thompson, I believe. I think he lost to Carl Thompson twice, I'm not quite sure. He lost to Steve Collins in a fight that wasn't even close. So are the Eubanks in general just overrated? And the only reason why we believe in them is because of their personality, because they have this huge confidence and they believe they can do more than their actual ability allows them to do. Could that be a reason? If we look at the son now, Chris Eubank Jr., what has he ever achieved? He's definitely someone who hasn't achieved his potential, as we say. He lost to Billy Joe Saunders. We gave him another chance to win. He lost to, he lost. He lost. He's got 3 losses. I can't think of any really good win that he's had apart from James DeGale. But James DeGale wasn't unbeaten. He had lost to George Groves. And then George Groves also beat Eubank. So are they just, the Eubanks, they talk about the Eubank name being this great name. Are they just underachievers in general? Chris Eubank never had the chance to fight Roy Jones Jr., but Roy Jones Jr. would have destroyed him. So how good really was his father? I think, unfortunately, this last reason that I've put in here is probably the most plausible. But I could be wrong, and I could be just being a bit negative. But in my view, and my humble opinion, I think that the Eubanks just being overrated is, I think it just comes down to the Eubanks being overrated. I haven't seen any evidence of Eubank Jr. or Eubank Sr. ever really being a world-class beater. Even though Eubank Sr. did win a world title, like I said, when he stepped up in competition to fight elite guys, he also lost. Could it also be having an amateur career? Not having much of an amateur career. Let me know what you think. Why do you think he lost? Do you think he still has a chance to do anything significant in the sport? His father did say in an interview he'll never be a world champion. That prediction looks like it may come true.
Man,
I'm on to
guess
the next
who's
one.
back? I said, guess who's back?
If you enjoyed the video today, please don't forget to like, share, leave a comment, and of course, don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Thank you.